All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another session of 30 Minutes with. This is Downtown Spokane's recurring webinar series in which we bring to you local industry experts and community leaders to talk about some of the more pressing topics of the day. My name is Kevin Campbell, and I am the Business Relations Coordinator for the Downtown Spokane Partnership and Business Improvement District. And today I have the pleasure of introducing our featured presenter, Dave Black. Dave, for those of you who don't know, is the CEO of NAI Black. And today he's going to be talking with us about the landscape of reopening in the workforce and what sort of trends and other things we're seeing along those lines from local businesses and property owners. So in a moment, I'll pass things over to Dave. If you have any questions during his kind of prepared portion of the presentation, please just feel free to put those into the chat box and we'll queue them up there. And then we'll use the remaining time at the end of this session to also get into a live Q&A if you'd like to generate any discussion there or ask any questions. I'll also note that we do record these sessions and we put them onto our YouTube channel and online at our website, downtownspokane.org. So you will be able to reference and share any of this content in the future as well, if you'd like. So with all of that, I'll go ahead and pass things over to you now, Dave. Dave, thanks for being here with us. We appreciate you taking the time and look forward to hearing what you have to say. A very pertinent topic, of course. And so looking forward to getting into it. So if you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Well, thanks, Kevin. It's an honor for me to be able to speak on downtown. I come off the chairmanship of the board of the Downtown Spokane Partnership, and so I'm past chair, but still on the board. And of course, we all know the Downtown Spokane Partnership is very involved in what's happening in all aspects of downtown. So I have that perspective. I also have the real estate perspective because we are in the real estate business, and we understand what's going on in terms of tenants' minds about downtown. We get good feedback on potential new tenants and where they want to be and what they want to do. So we have that perspective. And then we also have a perspective as a developer slash occupant of downtown. Our office is right at Riverside and Post. We're in the GSI building, and we just left after 50 years at First and Howard. We converted that building to apartments. So we have a good perspective on multifamily downtown, housing. We have a good perspective on the office market, etc. So with that, what I'm going to do today is I like interactive sessions. I didn't prepare a PowerPoint. I don't think you guys want to listen to me talk too long. I'm going to speak for maybe 15 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes, I'd like to just have a dialogue. I see some people on the call that, like Katie from Washington Trust, that has a really good perspective on what employers are doing. And I'd like to call on you, Katie, a little bit later just to talk about maybe what Washington Trust is doing with their employees, because I think it's a good example of what's going on downtown in general. I think it's real typical. We did an informal survey of employers downtown. Liz and Kevin helped, and we really came up with the fact that about a third of the employees are back at work, and about another third are going to come in late June, July, and then the last third, if they come at all, will be coming in September, October. So we're really not going to have a full downtown until this fall. And when you don't have a full downtown, it's different. Now, we all would agree that if we've been downtown, that it has gotten better. There's more, quote, normal people now, working people, I should say. I got to be careful how I word things. Then there has been. It's a lot better than it was at this time last year. It's kind of like during COVID, it was like you walk down the street and it's like going into a quiet meadow in the wilderness. There's lots of wildlife, but if there's more people, the wildlife is still there. It just scatters a little bit. So by wildlife, I mean homeless people. The criminality element has been really dramatic and increased during COVID. And we're hoping that when more people come downtown to work, that the homeless people and the criminality element and the drug element will not be so visible. And we've had a lot of discussions with a lot of different people. There's a lot of stakeholders. Marty, can you shut my door, please? Thanks. There's a lot of stakeholders that are working on this issue, and it is an issue. It's a huge issue, and it really shouldn't be the elephant in the room. It should be talked about, and it should be dealt with, and because we're not doing any favors to people that are on the street trying to live. They're not benefited by staying on the street. They are benefited by getting help, getting into shelters with counselors and drug treatment programs and accountability, versus staying in a sleeping bag, or worse, no blanket or anything on the street, and being subject to the drug culture and the criminality culture. So we're all working on that, and I think we all recognize that it's there. It's impossible not to. So with that, I would just say that downtown is really the center of commerce. It always has been. I mean, all the large banks are downtown with the larger buildings. The law firms have historically wanted to be downtown. The service people like real estate, commercial real estate companies, title companies, just all the insurance people, they all always wanted to be downtown. Some of that has changed as we've evolved into a medical community, a tech center, an airline hub. Obviously, business has spread out into different areas of our community and inland Northwest in general. But downtown is still vibrant and viable. There's restaurants opening all the time, and we're confident that downtown will be still the future of Spokane and the living room for downtown, and not the jungle. So, I think that we're all working on that, and we're all hopeful that downtown will be back. I love Liz's video that the DSP put out on coming back. It always brings tears to my eyes when I see it. And I think the biggest evidence of a revived downtown is all the restaurants that are either opening new or reopening. Wooden City, for example, right next to our building here on Riverside, beautiful restaurant. Mike Craven developed that building, brought them in, did an amazing job of remodeling it. Probably, spent 7 figures remodeling it. Great food. It's packed. You have to get a reservation. You can hardly get in there. Tavalata, I haven't eaten there yet, but that's the new restaurant in the old City Hall, and on the main floor there. And I heard it's amazing. Just opened. We're spending $1 million remodeling the Wave at First and Howard, and that should open in the next 30 days. So we're investing in downtown. We spent another $5 million on the converting an old office building that we were in for 50 years to apartments. We created 50 apartment units, and we leased them up at more than our pro forma rents in 60 days. And it's full. It's 100% occupied. So it's been a very much of a success. It speaks to the demand and the desire to live downtown, frankly, by young people. And most of our tenants are single, younger, working people. And we had a little bit of parking, but we only had about half the spots. We have about 20 spots for 50 tenants. We never had an issue. We did lease all our spots, And I think it was crucial that we had some spots, but we didn't need one spot for every person. So there's a lot of people that either park somewhere else or they don't have a car. So that was interesting to me. Parking has always been a concern in downtown. And in fact, I'm head of the committee that's the parking committee for DSP, and we're trying to build another parking garage downtown. We're trying to get a TIF put together, which is a tax increment financing district in downtown, so that we can get good financing and actually have finance the project through a deferment of real estate taxes. Gets a little complicated, but it's another incentive we're working on for developers to build downtown. And there are a few incentives the city has given us, the real estate tax abatement, which is either 8 or 12 years on rehab buildings for multifamily, which we're getting over at the Marjorie apartments, as we call them. We got the building on the historic register, the national, state, and local historic register, which gives us a 20% tax credit on the amount we spend. So if we spend $5 million on the apartments, we get $1 million of tax credit, and that's pretty sweet. I mean, a tax credit, it dollar for dollar reduces your taxes. It's not like a deduction. It's literally a credit. So that's quite an incentive to do projects. So between that federal incentive and the local real estate tax abatement, and then there's some other smaller incentives the city has for multifamily, I really foresee more of these older buildings being converted to residential apartment units, multifamily. The rents are higher than office. We were getting maybe $12 a foot, say $1 a month from that old building office space. And now we're getting over $2 a foot per month, or over $24 for apartments. And we leased it right up. So I think you're going to see more of that. And that's exciting because, again, the more people that are down on our sidewalks and down on our streets, I think the criminality element goes away. Not completely, of course, but I think it gets minimized. I watched a video from the early 1900s of downtown. Everybody's in white shirts and ties, skinny ties, and they're walking around, and it's pretty incredible video. I'm gonna find it one of these days and get it out there on the online, because it really shows how times have changed. We have a real dichotomy in our income levels and our demographic of who's downtown. It's not as cohesive a working class, so to speak, as it once was. So talked about housing, talked about restaurants. I mean, there are restaurants that are permanently closed. It's not all positive. Luigi's closed and others. And, that's unfortunate. Would it have happened without COVID? I think COVID has given people a good excuse to change their life like they want it to be changed. I think the people that always woke up in the morning and had a real problem driving downtown or driving to work, got to work from home, and they like that, and they might be able to continue working from home. Some people have retired early. Some people have quit their jobs, changed jobs. A lot of people are moving here. Obviously, the housing market is just absolutely on fire. COVID has really changed this town and this area. Coeur d'Alene Lake, can't find a place. North Idaho, you can't find a house. I mean, you want to sell your house and make all this money now because we've had, 20% a year run-ups. But where do you go live? So that's another dilemma. So with that, it's 10:18. Time flies while you're having fun. I want to open it up for some questions. I've got stats on the office market, in various sectors, which you probably don't want to hear, but they're not really any different yet than they were a year ago. We're about 15% vacant in the office market right now throughout Class A, B, and C. That's up a little bit in the Class A, which used to be about 11-12%. So we have lost some tenants in downtown. I know there are tenants that want to relocate from downtown due to the homeless and criminality and scariness issue. And that is happening. We have people saying, I will not locate downtown. So we need to fix that. I think by this fall, when most people are back to work, and I also think with the government becoming fully aware. I talked to our mayor yesterday about this issue. We had some rocks thrown through our building in the GSI space, and the new precinct is right across the street, and it took the cops 50 minutes to arrest the guy. He threw the rocks through 3 big floor to ceiling $8,000 windows, and then he went and sat on the sidewalk. And we timed, and the cops took 50 minutes to get there. There's a problem with that. But now the good news is that from the mayor on down are aware of this issue, and it's going to be fixed. So that's the good news. Anyway, I'll open it up. Fire away.
So now is a good time if anyone would like to take yourselves off of mute or just chime in to the chat box. Feel free to do that. Just to kick things off, Dave, I am a little curious. You did, you talked about sort of this residential kind of conversion that's going on, but as far as the commercial spaces, I'm just curious if you're seeing any kind of trends of people reducing the size of their offices, or as we kind of expect a lot of companies and office spaces to switch to a work from home format. So similar, like you said, to like your company, not everyone needs a parking space. Sounds like some offices, not everyone will need as many actual desks or offices. Are you seeing anything like that already kind of come up where people are kind of reducing the space that they need, or what do you anticipate on that end?
Well, I think there are companies that are reducing their space, and I know, for example, Kaufman Engineers, they're in the Peyton building. They were on an expansion mode, and they were looking for more space. I don't think they are now. I think that companies are going to make more collaborative, community type space. They may not shrink their overall space, but I don't think they're going to grow either. I think they're going to consolidate offices. Maybe let some of their people that really need or want to work from home, but also come in several days a week to work, have a space, maybe not the huge office they once had. But overall, from a landlord perspective, I still see, most companies have leases that they have to honor. And so from a landlord perspective and a vacancy perspective, we haven't seen the numbers really change, but internally, Katie's on the line now. I've got a whole paragraph on what Washington Trust is doing here, and I was going to talk about that. But since you're on the line, I'm going to just have you tell us what Washington Trust is doing, because I think it's a really good example of what's going on in this community.
Sure, happy to do that. So, we created. You can hear me okay, hopefully. I'm having some internet issues, so I'm working from home today so I can be on the phone with Comcast. Yay, lucky me. So speaking of that, the flexibility of working remotely is something as an employer we're embracing. We don't want to, just slaughter our friends in the commercial real estate space and send everybody home and not own a property anymore. But that being said, we are trying to downsize and be efficient in our downtown campus. We were in 7 locations, some of which were rental spaces because we had expanded so much. So we want to get kind of core buildings that we own and get our employees in there. Candidly, remote work isn't a huge thing in Spokane, and it's not a huge thing in our industry, so it's new for us and for our company. And I'm seeing a lot of other companies in Spokane start this as well. And I think if you don't embrace it at some level, you're going to have a hard time competing for talent. But I also think as I look, 5 years away or even 2 years away, there's still this, and the millennials like to call us old fashioned, but there's still this need to be in person, to collaborate, to generate ideas, to be innovative. So I think there's a lot of companies or industries that can't be as successful with remote work as others. And they're still going to need the engineers in the conference room to put things together. Some of the back office staff can be remote, absolutely. But I think part of what makes downtown great and part of what makes Spokane a great place to live is the relationships. And those are harder to maintain if half your staff is remote and the other people are here on site. And I think from a career progression standpoint, some of those people more junior in their careers will lose opportunities, because if Dave says, hey, come into the conference room, there's a client here, step into this meeting, or it's an impromptu meeting, they're not going to take time and say, hang on, we got to call a WebEx and get Bob from home and do all of that.
Right.
So that
right.
growth and mentorship, the spontaneity is lost. And that can have a career impact. At the same time, we have to make sure that all companies are equitable, because moms may want to be home more than your single men or your dad. So we want to make sure, we're managing careers and opportunities and training. So there's a lot to it than just who's going to sit somewhere and what does that look like.
Right. And, I know in talking with Sue Horton, who's the CEO of Wheatland Bank, same kind of discussion. And so there's a lot going on in these companies. And keep in mind, Katie is the human relations director for all of Washington Trust. So she's got a big job and understands this probably as well as anyone. Washington Trust leases buildings, owns buildings, owns the Wells Fargo building, for example. I mean, so very much on all sides of the coin. I think a very good example of a downtown Spokane employer. So thank you for sharing that perspective.
Absolutely.
It's going to be real interesting. Any other questions, comments?
I have a question. Oh, sorry. There's my video.
Oh.
Hey, so like I've noticed with downtown, some of the smaller, more like one-person offices, it could have been your therapist, that would have been in a place like the Hutton building, have moved home and adjusted to serving clients over the web or the phone or in non-traditional ways. Do you think that we're going to lose those one-person office spaces? Like, what do you think is the new sweet spot for an office size? Is it a massive employer? Is it a 1-2 people working in a collaborative office? Or is it maybe somewhere in between?
Well, it's a great question. We talk about the large employers. That's one thing, but also the small shops, and the small offices. They're more flexible in terms of their lease term. They can do a lot more things. They can either go home or go to the lake and work, or go to the mountain and work, or stay downtown. Katie said it right. I don't think we're going to lose even the one-person office. They typically, like, I got a bunch of buddies that work above Indaba Coffee down there on Riverside, and Tom Simpson and all those guys, and they're all separate companies. They're all separate individuals, but they love coming to work because they see each other in the hall. They've got a common conference room. And I think this whole idea of working in a vacuum in your basement is not a long-term fix, especially for the entrepreneurs who are on their own. I feel like they need collaboration as much as anyone in a large company. So I see people doing different things than they might have been doing as a result of COVID, but I still think they need a collaborative environment. I had a client walk in, unannounced. He flies a private jet. He's out of California. Great guy. I've known him for years. He buys real estate all over the West Coast. And he texts me and he says, hey, I'm going to be in town at 2:00. Can you meet at 4? I got to run to Coeur d'Alene and then I'm coming back. And I won't tell you how much money, like an ungodly amount of money in an exchange account I've got to invest. And I was in the office, luckily, and some of my top brokers were in the office because that's where it's at, in my opinion. And I got them all in my room, in my office. he came in and we had an hour-long brainstorm session on what's out there, what's available. If those guys wouldn't have been in the office, they wouldn't have had that interaction. Now they're all showing him stuff. He's going to buy some stuff. They're excited. And it was an in-person meeting, and it was like so refreshing. It was like, I haven't had an in-person impromptu meeting like that for over a year. I mean, it's all like this on Zoom, and it's just not the same. I mean, I actually walked out of the room inspired. I mean, obviously we had a client that was going to buy some stuff, but still, it was inspiring to just have the meeting. So I think people are going to move around, to answer your question, but I don't think it's going to end the downtown small space scene.
Then looks like Dave, we've just got a few minutes left here, but I'm just kind of curious, maybe to wrap up, you know, as a property manager, are there certain questions you're getting from tenants just about what would make them feel better about coming back to the office, or, you know, have more confidence? Has the vaccinations, you know, being as available as they have been for the last month, has that made any impact?
You know, it's really interesting on the vaccination thing. We have a policy now in our company where you don't have to wear a mask if you've been vaccinated. And then the question is, well, do they have to prove it? You know, are we going on the honor system? You know, and you know, I think that's going on in every company right now. This thing is evolving so fast. And there are tenants that have just basically said, once our lease is up, we're out of here unless things change. So I think we're on a real precipice, and we can go one way or the other with downtown. And I'm going to fight, and I know that all of us on this call are going to fight for a vibrant, very cool downtown. And I think we're going to get there. I'm really optimistic we're going to get there. This area has grown. It's grown substantially. It's continuing to grow. I think it's got a bright future, and downtown is essential in that future.
Well, that's great. Well, that's very, you know, we appreciate the optimism and the confidence there, and we're right behind you. We're just about at time. Is there any kind of last little things you'd like to put out there for everyone?
You know, I think that I covered most of what I wanted to cover in a general sense. I mean, we can get into the weeds on all of this stuff. We can talk all day on these topics. I mean, the homeless issue, I've had so many discussions with so many people, and of all over, it's rampant all over our area now. I mean, we've managed stuff all over town, and we're fighting it everywhere right now. So it's a real issue.
Well, all right. Well, with that, I believe we'll go ahead and wrap things up. But, you know, yeah, we are. And, you know, if anyone has questions, of course, especially Downtown Spokane Partnership, we are here, you know, to help address those things and further the discussion and, you know, take some action to address these issues. So you can always reach out to us at info@downtownspokane.org, and someone from our team will get to that. You know, we're always in touch with Dave and a lot of other fantastic partners here in the community to address those things. So
also, feel free to email me with any other questions, dblack@naiblack.com. We're in the brokerage business. We're in the property management business in a big way. And we're in the development business. So we kind of have a three-legged stool. And, you know, I can answer questions on a wide range of real estate topics. So feel free. And we have a market report as well. It's really good. It just came out. I can send it to you electronically if you want it. Just give me a quick email.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that. So we appreciate your time, Dave. We'll go ahead and wrap things up here. If anyone is interested in future 30 Minutes with sessions, feel free to just go onto our website, downtownspokane.org. Our events page will have it there. On June 10th, we're going to be talking with Micah Maloney from Spokane Arts about what integrating local artists can do to help benefit your business, as far as not just entertainment, but even the visual arts and how they can kind of help your business thrive. So we're looking forward to that. So thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you again, Dave, and thank you, Katie, for your contributions as well. We appreciate it, and have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you.